Hi everyone, my name is Nicholas,
I'm KK.
and today we'll be doing a personality analysis on two characters. The two characters that we picked are from the Marvel Cinematic Universe, but to be more precise, they're from the Marvel The Avengers series. The characters are one of the most iconic villains in this series, and one of the most beloved hero in this series. And the two characters that we picked are Thanos and Iron Man. My analysis will be on the character Thanos. But before I analyze his personality, I'd like to introduce a little bit about my character. His parents were known as Eternals. His mother was called Suisan, and his father was Alar. They gave birth to Thanos. They are called Eternals because they just have powers. That's just what it means. This in turn gave Thanos superpowers. He has the powers of super strength, speed, and longevity. But on the day of his birth, his mother saw evil in his eyes and appearance and attempted to kill him at first sight. But his father stopped her and sent her away. But this traumatic event sparked a hunger for Thanos to kill in the future. He loved he loved it so much that he began to rationalize it all his killings to make it justifiable. An instance of this was when his planet Titan was on the verge of overpopulation. He proposed the idea of eliminating half of the population to save the other half. The Titans all disagreed with this, and thus named him the Mad Titan. But eventually, the planet was destroyed due to lack of resources. He then ventured off to many other galaxies, killing half of the population in order to quote unquote save them. But in reality, he was actually just satisfying his own hunger to kill. During his journey, he found out about the power of six magical stones in which he could use to fulfill his destiny with just a snap of his fingers. This journey eventually led him to meet our Marvel superheroes like the Avengers and Iron Man. So the theory that I would like to analyze this on is on Alfred Adler's basic styles of life. In his theory, there are four styles, which are the dominant style, which is the ruling type, which is like the overlord type, which means in a group that you want to be the leader, you want to be the one pulling the ropes, the one handling everything, the one in charge, the one that creates all the plans. And the next one is the getting style, which is the leading type, in which the person is tend to solve their problems to be more they are more reliant towards other people. They tend to more depend they tend to be more dependent towards someone else. They think that they cannot solve the problems by themselves. And the next one is the avoiding style, which is the avoiding type, in which these people are tend to solve their problems by just simply avoiding them. They plan to solve their problems by just simply ignoring that there's a problem altogether. And the last one is the socially useful type, in which they're the most cooperative one, the most healthy one is this one, because these are the ones that means that you tend to uh, look for teamwork in a group. So the one that Thanos is the dominant type, because in his reign he wanted everyone to see his idea of killing half of the population as a great idea that he was overwhelmed when they all nicknamed him the Mad Titan. He wanted to be the one he wanted to be like a god basically. He wanted everyone to follow his plan because he wanted to be the one in control, the one who created balance in the universe. So which is why I chose the dominant type for this. The second one will be on Gordon Allport's trait theory. So in his theory, there are three main traits in everyone. So the first one is the cardinal trait. This is the most dominant one. This defines a person to the extent that it's almost synonymous to its trait, synonymous to their names. For example, like Abraham Lincoln, you would call him Honest Abe because he was very honest during his time, and people nicknamed him Honest Abe. He was so dominant. It was so dominant. That trait about him was so dominant that people linked it with him, like Adolf Hitler with narcissistic. So narcissistic Hitler. Another one would be central trait, which is the basic foundations. This one describes major characteristics such as intelligence, honesty, shy, and so on to describe another person. These are considered as central traits, but they are not as dominant as cardinal. And the last one is secondary traits. Secondary traits only often appears in certain situations. They an example of this would be an example of this would be let me think. It would be public speaking anxiety. You are very scared during public speaking, or maybe impatient during traffic jams, where you're very patient in other things but impatient in a specific thing like traffic jam. You only specifically that. So the one that I chose for Thanos would be cardinal trait, and the trait that I chose for him was ruthlessness. This was very dominant in his life because as it built on, as he killed half of the population, he didn't care about the other lives. He lacked the compassion and care towards the other people that were living. He just simply killed because he wanted to kill. So yeah, so that will be all for mine. Next will be on Iron Man.
Okay, so now let's talk about the Iron Man. So the character that I have picked is Anthony Edward Stark. So usual people are call him as Tony Stark. He is the Iron Man builder and he's very rich. And he is a billionaire is because he is a weaponry industrial business. And at the World War II, he sell a lot of weapons to the soldiers too. And also he is a playboy and he very intelligent and he is a genius inventor too. So there's a lot of people was asking that why Tony Stark have to create the Iron Man suit is because on his past experience he was kidnapped by the terrorists, so he have to build a Iron Man suit to protect himself and escape from the terrorists. So the theory that I would like to relate to this character is Alexson Theory, which is stage of psychosocial development. So what is Alexson Theory? So basically, Alexson Theory is describe the impact of social experience and across the whole lifespan. The aim of the Alexson Theory is to investigate how social interaction and relationship play a role in development and growth of human beings. So now, the first stage of the theory is trust versus mistrust. So during this stage, child was very dependent on their parents or like caregivers for things that they need, such as like they need food, they need loves, they need safe and secure, and more of that. So if the child were able to succeed in this stage, this will impact the child to feel trust and feel safe and secure to their parents and caregivers. If the child was failed in this stage, the child will fail to develop the trust to the others, and also they will feel that bring out the fears to the world, and they will think that the world is unpredictable. In the early stage of the Stark lives, he was adopted by Howard and Maria Stark as and also there were shows that Stark was not really close with his father is because he was not the real son of Howard and treated by differently too. Okay, so moving on, the next stage of the Alexson theory is autonomy versus shame. In this stage, Cho was trying to gain a sense of personal control and also trying to increase their dependent skills such as like toilet trainings, wearing their own clothes, and also they eat by themselves and they choose the food that they want to eat. If the child can overcome in this stage, this will lead the child to feel more secure and build their own confidence too. And due to these Stark theories, I doesn't find that much story in his movie on this stage, so there has like nothing much I can share about in Stark life during this stage. So next, the fourth stage, the third stage of the psychological development is initiative versus guilt, which is really impact of Stark lives when he was young in during this stage. Oops, shit. Okay, so during this stage, the child was trying to build his own confidence, and they were trying to be more independent, and also they trying to explore their own abilities. As in the story of Stark lives, there's not really close relationship with his father is because his father is very sensitive person and reclusive person, which is crash with his outgoing and cocky personality. And also, Howard has a drinking habits, and sometimes he would cause him to abuse Tony Stark. This will really impact the development of children and instead interpret mistake of personal failure. And also this will lead the kids have a sense of guiltiness and they will feel that they are so bad. Okay, so moving on, the fourth stage of the fourth stage of the theory is industry versus inferiority, which is ability to contribute to lifelong well-beings and also extend themselves in the future in the social world. But as we can see that start life in this stage, he is not looking good from his father mind, so he was sent to the private school and toughened him up. While he was at the school, he was bullied by his schoolmates and teachers because they think that he's too childish. And then why people would think that he's too childish is because he was bring his first impression of Iron Man toys to the school and play alone. So they would think that he's too childish because he's playing toys. Okay, so the only way that he could escape from those things is to continue and enjoying to read the story about the King Arthur. As we can see that how inferiority from start with his school lives, and this shows that major impact and cause him struggle in the social and emotional expressions. So next, the next stage of the next stage of this theory is identity versus role confusions. During this stage, people are facing a lot of problems and conflicts with the others people, and there also must be resolved with primary virtues. People who can be success across in this stage will develop fidelity and the ability to communicate with others with a good relationships. So now let's look about the Tony Stark life. When he was 15 years old, he joined an undergraduate program in MIT and he achieved a lot of goals in his school lives. So after a few years, he met a person who is Meredith McCall, who is the person that the first love of Stark. McCall is a daughter of Howard's greatest business rival, and also due to these reasons, Stark fathers separated both of them. Stark was very upset and he taking alcohol to numb his pain. From here, as we can see in this stage, Stark was have a bad experience that in this stage and also impact how Stark can really express his true feelings and emotion to the others so that this will impact him to very hard to express himself. So moving on, the sixth stage of this theory is intimacy versus isolations, which forms as intimate and loving relationship with the other people. In this stage, people who are successful in this stage will lead them to fulfilling relationships, and also people who are failed in this stage, they will show a feeling of loneliness and isolations. As we can see from this part, Stark lives, from the Endgame movie scenes, Stark was failed to stop Thanos destroying the world, and also the people are vanishing. Stark was totally lost and also he hid himself alone because he keep blaming that he didn't save the world, he didn't save everyone, so he keep blaming himself. As we can see, Stark was totally lost and he felt loneliness and isolated due to this experience. Okay, so lastly, the next stage of this Erikson development stage theory is general relativity versus stagnations. In this stage, people are trying to think that how to contribute more to the society and doing more things to benefit future generations. From here, as we can see at the adventure movie scenes, Stark was trying to using his lives to protect people and who he loves, and also he almost sacrificed himself to saving them. at the Avenger 2 scenes, there's a nuke was dropping to the city, and Tony was immediately carrying out the nuke and bring to the safe place, and also he almost killed himself too. The next example is when Stark was fighting with the Thanos in the endgame scenes, he sacrificed himself using the Infinity Gauntlet to destroy Thanos and his troops too. From here, as we can see that Stark was contribute multiple times to the society and his friend, no matter he knows that he will die too. So this is the theory that I will relate. This is the part that I can relate Alexson Theory with this character. So moving on, the next theory that I would like to choose is Carl Rogers self-actualizations. Okay, so what is self-actualization theory? So self-actualization theories is talking about human have one basic motive, that is tendency to self-actualize, such as like fulfill one potential and achieve the highest level of human being they can, and self-actualize themselves in a positive ways. Such give an example, like a flower will grow, it is fulfill potential if the conditions are right, which means is it is constrained by its environment, so people will also flourish and reach their potential if their environment is good enough too. Like Tony Stark lives, he was unforgiven to the Winter Soldier who is murdered his parents, but Captain America, he's keep his determinations and keep encourage Stark, even though they fought multiple times in the Civil War scenes. They fought a lot of time, but Captain America still keep his determination to encourage him to forgiveness. And the next example is when uh when Tony he was failed to fight Thanos, and people are vanishing because he didn't stop Thanos to destroy the world. He was very lost. So okay, so yeah, and also he was, and the next example is when Tony Stark he was lost, he is giving up after Thanos was destroyed. Most of the people destroy the world. They can There's can see that how his team, especially Captain America, motivates him. From here, as we can see that how people can and how people and environment can affect a person that to self-actualize, and how people they can motive to achieve their goals. So yeah, this is my part. I'm done my part.
And thank you guys for listening. And that will be the end of our personality analysis. I hope you enjoyed this video, and you have any questions you could put it down in the comment box below. And
Okay,
thank you.
thank you.
Alright, goodbye.